So at exactly 9:05 we'll begin. So we'll proceed on. We're going to start our session for today, and I'm going to show you like how the correct installation steps for the Rasa bot. So before you install your Rasa bot, so you need to install something called the C++ dependencies for Visual Studio Code, right? So what you need to do is search for Visual. So I think this is in my history. And basically you need these. So you need to install the components you need to build C and C++ apps. Yep. So this is the page that you are going to use. So I'm going to copy this and share this with you in the chat. I think Xavier can take that and share with you also in the group. So once you are here on this page, you need to click on download Visual Studio with C++, then select something like the community. And this will download this XCE app for you. So since I have it downloaded already, you need to open the file that has been downloaded. So it's here on my programs. So it's the vsbuildtools.exe. Then you can run that file, open the file. So once you open the file, you'll see these steps. So I've already installed this since it's quite large. So it's roughly 2 GB in size. So you need to have like enough data bundles to do this. So once you've opened that, you need to select. So I have installed Visual Basic Tools 2022. And what you need to select is the Visual C++. Yeah. So if you check the available things, you need to install the Visual C++ tools. Yeah. So once you've installed the Visual C++ tools, you need to open your VS Code and open your terminal, new terminal. Then now do the pip install Rasa, and that will install Rasa. So if I type in Rasa over here in my virtual environment, so remember last time we created this virtual environment called Rasa. So we should be able to like see the model that we are going to use. Hello, Yusuf. So I'm going to share the full tutorial on how you can install these later, so don't have to worry about that. So our main focus for today will be the creation of a basic Rasa bot, one whereby we can share some inputs with the bot and get some outputs. Okay, so you can see if I run that, I have my output here. So if I type in Rasa dash version, let's see the version I have installed. Okay, so I have version 3.50. Okay, so I'm going to clear this. Then we are going to initialize our Rasa bot. So if we check the documentation here, so after we've installed the Rasa bot, we can now create a new project using Rasa init. So let me copy that, then paste that here, then click enter. So this will create our basic project. Okay, so we first have to enter the path for our project. So I will leave it as it is. So we'll use the current directory. So the directory is that. So we'll continue. So I'll click yes. Okay, so do you want to train an initial model? I can say yes. Okay, so let's wait for this to run fully, then we can proceed. Okay, so we're still waiting for this to run fully, then we can proceed. So if you run this code, the rasa.init, you are going to get some few files. So you will get the actions folder, which has the actions.py file and the, so this is the action.py file where you will create your Python functions. And over here we have our init.py file. Then we have the data folder, which has the nlu.yml. So the nlu.yml is going to take in your intents and give you like some example answers of what this model is supposed to answer. Then we have the rules. So these are some of the steps that your model needs to follow. And this is what we are going to like configure when we will be creating our Rasa bot. Then we have the stories, so things that you as an individual can talk to your bot about and you can get some outputs for that. Then we have, so we have these tests. So we have the tests to stories.yml. So these are some of the test stuff you can do. And we have the config.yml. So these are the configurations you have to use. So for example, you can see like the language, the pipelines, and the policies. Then we have the credentials where you are going to store your credentials. So for example, if you are going to like create a Slack bot, you can store your credentials here. If you're going to create a Facebook bot, you can store your credentials here. So things like that. Then we have the domain.yml, so which is also simple, similar to what we have up there, which defines like your responses for everything. Then we have endpoints. So endpoints are just links that you can add to your bot. So over here, we are training our initial model. So you can see it's still running. So this will be our initial model and you'll be able to like see how we can interact with this. So if we scroll down here, we can see you have some concepts here. And I think one of the things we can look at is the training data. So let's go to the training data format. And you can see over here, Rasa uses YAML as a unified and extendable way to manage all training data. So including NLU data. So this is the natural language data. So stories and rules. So if we go back to our files, if we go to the data part, you can see we have the NLU, rules, and the stories. So what is being mentioned here in the documentation part. Then you can see you can split the training data over any numbers of YML file, and each file can contain any combination of NLU data, stories, and rules. So the training data parser determines the training data type using top level keys. So if we have a look at maybe one of the files that we have over here, we have some top level keys. So for example, in the NLU.yml, so we have these as the top level keys. So for example, intent grid. So for example, if I say something like good morning, so I'm supposed to like get a reply since this is the data that I have over here. So this is intent grid. So things that suggest you are trying to say something similar to create. Then affirm, so things like yes, why, indeed, of course, deny, things like that, mood, create, so things like that. So what we need to do in our case is customize these intents to fit, we need to customize these intents to fit a medical based. So we need this to be fitted to a medical based data. So we need to use medical terms here. So we can leave the greetings and the affirmations and all that, but we can add some additional intents for medical based intents. So for example, so I think the model is still training, so we can wait for it to start. So for example, yeah, you can see, I think the model has been trained. So do you want to speak to the trained assistant on command line? So I can click yes. So we can get to see like how these bots can interact with us. Okay, so as that is running, I was saying that we can add some. Okay, so what I'll do is, but we'll add that later. So first of all, let's understand the kind of files we have here. So I'm waiting for this to run, then we can proceed. So let's continue looking at this. So this is the structure of the data that we have. So the version, NLU, stories, and rules. So this is for the data, training data part, right? So let's explain these files one by one. So the NLU takes in the intents, right? And the intents are the inputs that the bot expects from the user, right? So you have to note that down. So intents are user inputs, right? So for example, we said things like, hey, hello, good morning. So those are greetings. Goodbyes are something like, see you, goodbye, see you later, good night, bye, goodbye, have a nice day, see you around, bye, and see you later. Then next we have the rules, right? And the rules, if we have a look at what we have over here. So for example, we have rules. So rule, say goodbye anytime the user says goodbye, right? So if a user says, maybe if a user types in an intent that has been specified on the, so if a user say like types in any text that has been specified over here, for example, in the intent goodbye. So for example, if I say goodbye, so our bot will check the rules over here and see that the intent that the user has entered is goodbye. And what will it do? So it will perform an action, and the action will be utter goodbye. And utter goodbye means what? So say goodbye anytime the user says goodbye. Then we have these other rules. Say I am a bot anytime the user challenges. So we have the intent bot challenge. So if we asked this chatbot if it was a bot, so we can say something like, are you a bot? That's my input. So what should we expect as our output? So you can see over here, I am a bot powered by Rasa, but we can customize this. So depending on the kind of data we have over here. So we are trying to like understand these files better. And if I said something like, hello, well, let's see what we'll get. So that's a greeting. So you can see it's saying, hey, how are you? So we need this bot trained on medical data so that whenever someone types a question for this bot, it can be able to like answer this. So if I said something like, I have a headache, so this bot won't recognize this since it's not in the rules. So you can see it's saying bye. So we need it saying something else. If we say something like, I am not okay, let's see what it says. So it's saying here is something to cheer you up. So what we need to do is, if a user says I am not okay, we need it to like say, what are you feeling now? So how are you feeling now? So things like that. And that means we'll have to like change these things here. So for example, we have this is mood great and this is mood unhappy, where I said something like I am not okay. Yeah. So you can see it can recognize the sad moods and the happy moods. And if I say something like I am happy, so you'll see you'll get a different, so we get the same output here. And this is all defined by the kind of things we have here. So the rules, as I have mentioned, they define what kind of steps this bot needs to follow. So for the rules, we can split the rules into different rules. So for example, if someone is sick, we can have a rule over here that advises that person to like seek medical attention. If someone is looking for medication, we can create a rule for medication suggestion. If someone is looking for like psychological help, we can create a rule over here for like the bot interaction with that individual. So let's go ahead and look at the stories part. So the stories part define the kind of steps this bot needs to follow to like answer you. So for example, you can see over here, so story, happy path. So this is the happy path whereby I say that I am happy. So once I send in a greeting, so for example, this is the happy path whereby I send a greeting. So what action should I take after the user has sent in a greeting? So at a greet, and at a greet is has been specified here on the, okay, so it's not here, but I think it's in the story, so you have to like answer the greeting. And over here on the stories, we can take different intents. So we can specify different actions for different intents. So for example, you can see this is the happy path, which has two intents and two different actions that can be followed. Yeah. So if I send in a greeting, I can either be greeted back or I can either be send a happy text. If I go to the sad path one, if I sent in a greeting, I can be greeted. If I sent if my text mood is unhappy, then something to cheer me up will be sent. So things like that. So stories define the different things you are this bot is supposed to like say to the user, depending on the kind of mood he is in, or depending on the questions that he is asking. Then we have the models part over here. So once we've trained our model, so if we go up here, you can see that our model training was done. So let me check, where should it be? Okay, should be displayed over here. Yep, so we have these, so loading model, and the model that is being loaded is what we have over here. So what was stored after we've finished running our model, right? So there's the models folder is where our machine learning model, so which is the NLP based model, will be stored, right? So hope you've noted that down. Then next we have the test folder. So we have the config.yml, and the config.yml specifies the steps that you need to like, that the model you're going to train needs to follow. And over here you specify all the parameters, the hyperparameters, your pipelines, your policies, and everything that you need to do. But we won't do that for today, since as I had mentioned earlier, this session is just for us to like understand how the Rasa bot works. So the different folders that we have here. Then you have the credentials. So the credentials, as I had mentioned, is if you want these bot to act like a user, for example, on Slack. You know, Slack is one of the text messaging platforms, and mainly it's used by the corporates. So if you want this bot to interact with you as a user on Slack, you just have to like create the credentials over here and link it to your Slack bot. Then we have the domain.yml, and the domain.yml specifies the things that this bot needs to do. So it gets in the intents. So the input is the intent. So what you've specified in your data folder, and it specifies the response that you should get for each input the user gets in, right? So this is where our outputs will be specified, and we'll customize one of these and see what will happen. So for example, at a cheer app, so I can say something like, so what text should we use here? So over here you can see you can add images, so you just have to like paste in the image link. Okay, so let me undo this first. So here's something to cheer you up. So I add in something like, please don't be sad. So we will retrain this model again, and we'll get to see how our cheer up text works. And maybe these at I am a bot, so we can change this response to something else. So I can say something like, I am a bot created by the Africa CDSA community development team. So something like that. Then I can save that. So I'll have to, okay, so let's ask this question again. So are you a bot? This won't give us these outputs that we have over here, since we need to retrain our model again, since our model doesn't recognize this, since we haven't run it again. So so I've killed that. So I'll clear everything here. Then to train your Rasa model again, you just have to type in Rasa train, and I'll click enter. So this will train my model again. Okay, so our model is being trained. Let's go back to the Rasa website, see some of the additional contents we can get. So if you go through the documentation site, you can see we have a few things you can read here. So we have the NLU training data. We have the domain file. So what's the domain file? So the domain defines the universal in which your assistant operates. So it specifies the intents, entities, slots, responses, forms, and actions your bot should know about. So it also defines a configuration for conversation sessions. Okay, so things like that. So like, what should your bot reply to for the intents that you have? So everything that you have over here. So yeah, so this is what the domain file does. So you can create multiple domain files, but I think we'll do that as we progress on with our project. Then we have the config file. So let's go to the overview. So the configuration files determines the components and policies that your model will use to make predictions based on user inputs. So as I had mentioned earlier when showing you the code, the config file, so is the file whereby you specify your hyperparameters for your machine learning models and the rules for like fitting this machine learning model. So these will affect how your bot performs and maybe the accuracy of your bot in like sharing these outputs. Okay, then what else do we have? Endpoint credentials. So let's get to see that. Okay, so it's not here, but I think we should have them here. Okay, so you can see the different ways in which you can connect this bot to the different platforms. So you can link it to Facebook Messenger. You can also link it to Telegram using Bot Further. You can link it to Google Chat Hangouts, Microsoft Bot Framework, Cisco WebEx Teams, Rocket Chat matters most. And also you can create an audio bot. So we have audio codes, voice AI for this. So if we manage to like come up with something even better, we can try create an audio bot. So something that a user can talk to and maybe get some responses. Yeah, so I think basically that's all about the files that we have over here. So we've discussed the main files as of now. So now we've created our model. So let's check the models folder. So we now have two models. So we have the balanced flora and we have the absolute track. So I'm going to delete one of these, or instead of deleting it, let's just do Rasa run. So that will run our bot again. So let's see if we are going to get the most updated model running. And do and check if our bot is going to answer this. So check if our bot is going to like say, I am a bot created by the Afric CDSA team. Yep, so we are running the current model, so everything should be okay. Okay, so one of the things I will request you to do is, so now this is where you guys come in. So I will share these files with you. So for example, the data file, and I'll share maybe the NLU.yaml file, and you can try create examples for me here. So which are medical based. So things that you would expect a doctor to say to a patient and have the text over here, right? So things like, are you sick? So questions like that. But I'll share this file with you on the shared WhatsApp group, then you'll get to work on that. So let's wait for our model to finish compiling, then we can test our bot again, since we've changed a few things here. So we've changed the mood checker text, and we've changed the code for checking if this is a bot. Okay, so it's still running, so let's wait. While that is loading, we can check the Rasa Pro installation. So if you need to like use the Rasa Pro version, you can follow these steps to install the Rasa Plus. And I think this is, I will recommend you run this on cloud and not on your local machine. And if you are to run this on your local machine, you can use Docker to create your images for the bots. So what are some of the best practices? So these are the notes on some of the best practices you need to follow when running these bots. So what are some of the best practices when creating your NLU data? So We have some examples here, and also you can gather real data. So maybe if you want to store user inputs and use them to like train your future models, you can do that. So things like that. So you can go through this text over here to run some of the best practices. And also the last thing you can check is writing conversational data. So how to design your stories and all that. So maybe as a task for you this week, you can go through these three things over here, which will assist you to like understand which are the best practices for you to like follow when creating all these files that we have over here. Since I'll have to share these files with you, so zipped, so that once you've installed Rasa on your PC, you can try run everything that is here and also try customize the bot and see if it's going to like give you outputs that you need. So things like that. And our final project expectation will be something like this. So if I open this image in a new tab, so where's that? Oh, it's not a must. I open this image in a new tab. So if our final project should be something like this. So an interface whereby a user can chat with this bot and get like outputs. So you can see like this conversation that we have over here. So hi, I want to pay my credit card bill. So then the bot replies can do. So which of these credit accounts do you want to make a payment towards? So then it replies with the credit accounts. Then the user replies with the credit account he wants. Then it replies with the amount. Then you ask the balance. Then it shares your account balance. Then how much do you want to pay? Then I want to pay the minimum balance. So things like that. But ours will be medical based. So we won't be talking of money or accounts over here. So we'll be using medical terms. Okay, so let's wait for this to finish running. So it's taking quite a lot of time, but should be running in a few. Okay, and how can you deploy your Rasa bots? So we can go through the introduction part here. So this section explains when and how to deploy an assistant built with Rasa. So it allows you to make your assistant available to users and set you up with a production ready environment. Okay, so these are the different places you can like deploy these bot. So these are cloud-based. So we have Google Cloud, DigitalOcean, Microsoft Azure, and Amazon EKS. So basically for us, I think we'll have to deploy it locally. So I'll have to show you how we can deploy it locally. But we can also integrate it with other tools and deploy it online. So deploy Rasa. So here we have some of the steps, and here you will be using how to deploy Rasa open source. So your main aim will be the Rasa open source since we are not using the Rasa Plus. So installation requirements. So we are going to use either Kubernetes or OpenShift, right? So we have steps for both. So you can use either Kubernetes or OpenShift depending on what you are comfortable with. Yep. So you load the model, deploy the assistant online. So the main thing that runs our app is the model, since the model contains like all the info our bot needs to like run at optimum. So once you've deployed it, you can see, you can also look at the steps on how you can access that bot. So let me check my VS Code and see if this is running. So it's still running. We'll have to give it a few minutes. Okay. Okay, so the code is still running, but once it's done, we'll get to see the output here. So I don't know why it's taking too long to run, but we should be having something here. Or let me open this link, see if we will get an output. So it's not working. So we should be having our bot running over here. So maybe we can stop there for today, and during our next session, we'll customize these files and add some medical-based intents for our healthcare bot. And from there, we can interact with that bot and see if it's going to like answer some of the questions we have. Then on our third session, which will most likely be our second last session for like this project, we'll fine tune our bot to like be able to take in patient symptoms, since remember there is that data that we had downloaded earlier which has the patient symptoms and the disease like you are most likely to be like suffering from. So we'll feed that data to our model and we'll use our Rasa bot to like interact with users and be able to like predict the disease a person is most likely suffering from. Yep. So I think as this is running, I'll share a screenshot with you on WhatsApp once it's done so that you can see the output we will get if I ask this bot if it's a human or if it's a bot. So yeah, I think we'll stop there for today and I'll see you on Friday next week. Yeah.